That's how you know I'm not a makeup artist. I didn't clean my brushes. Am I gonna go clean them and stop this video? No, I'm just gonna wipe it on my leg. Hi guys, it's Emma and welcome to my channel. This week I am completely switching it up from the usual stuff that you've just seen of Emma and I just doing stupid things. Also, if this is your first video you're seeing of me, Emma is my roommate. I'm also named Emma. Really confusing, but I promise you can't really mistake us. To switch it up, I'm sat in front of the camera, which is weird for me. Slightly makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but the point of this channel is to take me out of my comfort zone. So step 1, check, done. And 2, I'm doing my makeup, which I love makeup, I've already said that, but actually having people watch me do my makeup is a completely different story because I will tell you this now and probably about 7 more times in this video. I am no expert, I'm not a makeup artist, so don't take how I'm doing my makeup as the holy grail because most likely I'm doing half of this wrong and I don't want anyone coming for me. Although if you have makeup tips, happily share them. This week I'm doing my makeup, not just to sit in front of the camera and do my makeup for 5 days and that's it. I wanted it to be kind of like a middleman in me talking about something that I've always wanted to talk about. This is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to start a YouTube channel. Other than me trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, I wanted to open up a discussion about being an international student, which me saying open up a discussion makes it sound like it's like a taboo thing. It's not. I just found through my high school career, no one really talked about it, and then even afterwards, I still get loads of questions. As I've already stated, I'm not an expert in makeup, nor am I an expert on being an international student. This is just the tips and things I've experienced being an American going to the UK. And by no means is this how everyone's experience is gonna be. I just want to be a catalyst, I guess. Fancy vocab. A catalyst in opening up this discussion of being an international student and kind of what to expect, because when I looked at being an international student, the only video I could really find was the plugs will be different in Europe than the States, and I kind of went, well yes, thank you. I've traveled before. Useful information if you didn't know that, but if you knew it, it's not the information you're looking for. So hopefully my points are touching on things that maybe you may not have thought of and is now something that you think about, or something you've been thinking about and wanted someone to kind of discuss it with. I say discuss it with, it's me talking to a camera, you can't talk back to me, but you can talk to me in the comment section. I'm more than happy to talk to you, even if I don't have the answers. I'm more than happy to try and talk you through things, maybe help you look in the right direction, or maybe I know a friend who might know it and I can ask them and help you get advice. Before I start my makeup, I'm just gonna pause the camera, sort out my hair because I can't do my makeup with my bangs in my face. I have tried before. No, it didn't work. So I'll be back in a second. I also just wanted to know all of the products I'll be using will be down in the description. Because this is not a tutorial, I'm not going to explain what I'm doing, but I'll put the products I'm using if you're curious about what eyeshadow color it is or what BB cream I'm using and that kind of thing. Also, yes, I'm sat on my floor using my wardrobes. I couldn't think of anywhere else to film. I'm going to start this off with talking about myself a bit, which I know sounds a bit conceited, but it's just to kind of give you a baseline of why I'm even talking about being an international student. I am an American who went to American high school, and from the age of around 16 I had an idea that I wanted to go abroad. I'm a dual citizen, so my dad's British citizen. I don't need a student visa. It was slightly more easier for me to kind of decide that I want to go international. I didn't have to worry about all the paperwork and just the whole interview process, because I think that would have been really intimidating for me at age 18 to have to interview and show someone that I'm adult enough to go to a foreign country to learn. So with that, at the age of 16, I started doing research into what school I wanted to go to, and then in the summer of 2016, I got accepted into De Montfort University in Leicester after applying to 5 universities. I studied Arts and Festivals Management, and in 2019 I graduated, and now I am in London working in the events industry, which is what I studied to do. The big reasons why I decided to be an international student was my degree was super niche and I really couldn't find that in the States that well. Anytime I really looked into it at that point, this is now 5-6 years ago, it was all hospitality majors with events minors, or like it wasn't really a focus on the creative industry, which is where I knew I wanted to be niched into events, so hence arts and festivals management. being my niche. It is 3 years instead of 4 years for a BA. I wasn't awful at school, but I wasn't great, so I knew I just kind of wanted to get it out the way, and I wanted to have a degree that gave me a lot of practical work. So I had 2 internships, placements, whichever you want to call them, through my university, which was really helpful, which then actually led me to get my job, which I'm super happy about, that I put myself out there and got the job. And then the third reason was because I am a dual citizen, I kind of wanted to experience that side of my like culture, my heritage. So I lived in your family, I was able to see more family more often. So those are the main reasons why I decided to be an international student. I want to start with my top 3 tips. These are by no means like the holy grail, but I found they were super useful for me when I had actually like decided in my head I wanted to do this and dedicate the time into doing it. So my tip number 1 is to do your research, which I know kind of sounds redundant, being like, well, you're going to college or university or whatever and you haven't done your research. That sounds a bit crazy. But the amount of people I knew that went into a degree without knowing what it actually was actually almost like upsetting for me to hear, because I feel like after me doing research for probably a year and a half, because my mind changed so much and I knew my mind would, just to see that people kind of willy-nilly picked, it was almost upsetting, because you're paying so much to go into higher education and you're not happy with it and you feel like they're not helping you, and it causes like all of these other dramas and all this other stress in your life. And then obviously with research you find new things. So like I didn't originally know I wanted to do arts and festivals management as a degree. It's through research of what I knew I wanted to do, and then I found courses or modules for what I wanted to learn and then how it applied to my career long term. Point number 2, which is gonna sound even more like meta than the last bit, but is allowing yourself to learn and change your mind, but also to be comfortable with your decisions. Because at the end of the day, people will question you for why you've decided to do this. I mean, I probably lost count after the first handful of conversations I had of people who are like, oh, are you sure you want to go so far away from home? Oh, are you sure you're not going to miss your family? Oh, you're going to miss out on so many amazing things though here. Like, oh, don't you want to be a part of sororities? Don't you want to have this? Don't you want to have that? And like, it was stuff that I was like, well, I haven't experienced it, so I don't know what I'm missing out on anyway. It's not like I had gone to an American school for a year and then decided to change my mind. I quickly learned kind of the hard way that people were going to ask loads of questions, which in my head I didn't realize people would, because for me it wasn't that big of a decision. I knew what I wanted to do, so I was just following what I knew in my head. But on reflection, it was really daunting. And I should have realized how daunting it was when I first decided to do it. But the reason why it's allowing yourself to learn and to feel comfortable with you learning is because arts and festivals management and De Montfort weren't even on my radar originally until I actually fully did my research. In my head, if I was going to go to England, it was go big or go home. So in my head I was like, I need to be in London, I need to be in the south, I can't. I don't want to be up in like near Scotland and be freezing cold in the winters, and I had such a skewed perception of it that I had stopped myself from looking elsewhere until it randomly popped up in my feed, and then I fully looked into it and I really fell in love with the course. So it's just to kind of know that you're not gonna have all the answers, and that's totally normal, and I wish people would just say it was normal that you won't have all the answers. My last point is don't shy away from your home, which I know kind of sounds like, well, of course I wouldn't. Why would you even like state that? Like, obviously I'm gonna still stay true to my roots and this kind of thing. And it's not necessarily staying true to your roots, it's just knowing that when you are away from home and you're around a totally different culture, you might find yourself trying to really adapt and try to really fit in, which is totally normal to happen for anyone, not just international students. If you go away to university, you're going to find yourself wanting to fit in with new people. Don't let the people in the new place that you've decided to go to university change you to a point where you aren't happy with yourself, or that you've forgotten where you've come from. I knew people that said that. They're like, no, don't mention like I'm from here, like I don't like talking about I'm from here, like leave it be. And it was kind of sad to see that some people ended up turning into that, because obviously everyone's situation is different and everyone's home situations are different, so it's not like I'm saying don't change, because that would counteract tip number 2 is allowing yourself to change. But it's just to know that you might find yourself straying from your original ideas ideals or morals or even your own personal values, and just to allow yourself to bring yourself back home. At the end of the day, it's up to you how you choose to live your life, and don't let other people fully change that about you. Those are my top tips, I think, and you'll realize I kind of touch on them again as I talk about other things, because I feel like some people, when they make a decision, a really big decision, so moving away from home is a huge decision for some people. I know in any place I've lived, it was weird for me to move around so much, and people were like, oh my god, it's such a big decision that you're moving away from home. And I was like, well, I've moved a lot, so me moving isn't a huge decision. But someone who grew up in the house that their parents were born in, yeah, it's a huge decision for them to stray away from that, and to just allow yourself to be afraid of it as well. Now I'm gonna try and touch on some more specific points, just because so far it's been really like out there and kind of like, it's like a totally different dimension to the world. And I talk about it as if like it's not really a thing. So the first thing I'm going to talk about more specifically is finding the right school. And I'm going to put right in air quotes, because at the end of the day, there's not a right or wrong answer. You're going to make a decision and you might be really happy with your decision, you might regret your decision, and that doesn't necessarily mean you can't change schools or that you can't change courses or anything like that. I know loads of people who switch schools and switch degrees, and now they're so much happier following their guts. This goes really in hand with the first two tips, which is to do your research and to be comfortable with your ideas changing. So for me, and I think my biggest tip with finding a school, whether you're international or not, is to just know kind of what you're looking for in a school. If you know you want a really big school with loads of people so you get a chance to meet loads of different people, make that your top priority. If you want to be in a school that's in a city, make that your top, like figure out what your top priorities are, because you're gonna have this like wish list of what you want, almost like, I don't know if this is just a female thing or just an American thing, where you grew up and thought about your dream house and like what you would want in a dream home. And if you've ever moved, you'll know you're never gonna get everything on your wish list unless if you've built that house yourself. So you have to prioritize what you want. Like for me with moving, my priority was a washing machine, because when you don't have a washing machine, you find out that you need one. So make sure you keep your priorities in check, and they will change. In your head, you might be like, this is a priority, I can't stray from that. And you will stray from it, and you might be happy you strayed from it. You might think, oh, I don't know why I really strayed from it. I'm not really happy with that decision anymore, and that's totally fine. I think, at least in America, they put so much pressure on you to make sure you're picking the right school for you when you're 18. And to be honest, I know so many kids at 18 that had absolutely no idea what they wanted to do, and yet they were still going to university and into higher education. Where I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. You're spending all of this money on something you might regret later, instead of taking the time to actually like sit and process that maybe you do need more time to look, or maybe higher education isn't for you. Because, side note, you don't need a degree to get a job. And I think, at least for me in the States, growing up, it was really pressured that you need a degree to get a job. It's not true. So just release some of that pressure as well when you're finding the right school. Don't feel like you only have a week to find the right school. Make sure you give yourself enough time to look. If you pressure yourself too quickly on, you're gonna stress yourself out, and it just makes the whole process even worse. Because it is really intimidating also, trying to think of what could be the rest of your life almost. But you can always go back to school, you could always get another degree, you can always change jobs. All this pressure should be off your shoulders now. Don't feel this immense, this almost like, for me it almost felt like the world was on my shoulders for a while there in high school, just because so many people pressured it into my head that like, oh my god, this is gonna be like this next decision decides your life. And me at 18 going like, what? This one decision is for the rest of my life? What are you talking about? It freaked me out. And I'm sure it freaks out a lot of you just thinking about it. The next thing I kind of want to touch on, not too much in detail because I don't want to end up doing a whole spiral on American versus UK education system, and also I don't want this video to just be focused on going to the UK, because you could be someone who might be trying to go to the States or go to Sweden or go to France. I'm trying to keep it kind of open so you can know as a whole what to do instead of pigeonholing, because obviously I don't have the answers for every country and every university. Everything's different, so just make sure you look into that. So I'm gonna briefly talk about grading and teaching, because I didn't realize it'd be so different until I started learning and I started getting assignments and all that really fun education stuff. I really struggled with fully understanding the differences between the two, and in my head I always compared it like tick for tack, like I compared it as if it was the same thing, and it's not. So when I first got my first grade back, I think I got like a 58 on it. And you know, in the UK, a 58 isn't bad for a first year student on your first assignment. In the States, a 58 is, what is that, a C minus or D? So I full-blown panicked. I freaked out, probably cried a bit, being like, oh my god, I'm a failure, I'm an idiot. And then I had really good friends that actually helped me out in figuring out, like, look, it's not a bad grade, like here, look, here's online, like here are some conversions. And if you're worried about maybe going back to school or starting school, if that's something that worries you, make sure that's a priority that you look for in your school. See what facilities they have for helping you learn. Because I know mine had loads of these like lectures and little mini like workshops where you could work on different types of referencing and writing and with British grammar and all that like kind of stuff. I don't really want to go too much into detail. Just make sure you have an open up conversation with your lecturers or your personal tutor, as we would call them in the UK, for someone you talk to personally about stuff. 9 out of 10 times the university wants to help you. They want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you fail and flounder. They're there to help you. There are odd cases where that's not the case. But don't be afraid to speak up, because at the end of the day, you're paying for your education. If you're not happy with it, do something about it. I know it looks slightly different, but I needed to charge my camera battery a little bit. Flashing at me that it wasn't gonna survive. So I thought I might as well do my eyeliner and my mascara and then, because boy, you know I couldn't do it while talking. The next thing I want to talk about is how people reacted to me being an international student. So both people back from my hometown as well as people here. To be honest, I don't know why I specified the two, because pretty much the same reaction of why are you doing it, a lot of people would ask. So obviously it really depends on where you're moving to. But some people will react like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing, like tell me more about where you're from. Some people will think you're just trying to use it for attention, which is sadly true that some people think that. And there's some people that will question why you're doing it. So hence the tip of being comfortable with your decision, because boy oh boy do people question your decisions, especially if it's a big decision like moving away. Honestly, I'm only mentioning this so you can kind of prepare yourself for those kind of comments and questions. People always use it as a chat at blind. People always use it as like an excuse. Well, you're foreign, well, I don't know how you're gonna react to things. Oh, well, you don't get my humor because you're foreign. If someone just says something mean, like there's like trying to have a bit of banter with someone and like trying to poke fun, and others just flat out being mean, and people use the excuse of you being foreign and not understanding it as a reason to be mean to you. I'm only mentioning it so you guys can kind of prepare yourselves mentally for it. I really wasn't prepared for it, because what you don't realize is when you move away from your hometown, you are now the foreigner. Air quotes around it, because I don't like that. I don't like using that phrase. Anywhere I go, I will have an accent to someone who isn't from the States. And even in the States, some people think I have an accent, but that's for the end of the video. I think a lot of people don't realize it unless if they have traveled abroad. People don't realize that you have an accent until you leave. And then when people start pointing it out, there are a couple of ways you can react to it. So some people think it's really cool, and then you'll find it really cool. You're like, oh cool, I'm like schnazzy and like foreign. Which happened to me slightly. I got a bit too in my head and then ended up just slightly spiraling. Or there's some people that get really annoyed by it and are like, never bring it up to me. Like, I know I have an accent. Do you have anything else to mention to me? No, you're not adding anything to my life. Get out. Thankfully, I've never gotten to a point where it really annoyed me. I've now come to a point where if someone's like, oh my god, an American accent, that's great. And I go, thanks. Really didn't have a decision in it. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. You kind of get sick of the comments after a while, and as you get older and if you move someplace that is used to more foreign people stop to mention it less. Moral of the story, people will make comments if you're foreign and they're not used to foreigners, and sadly it's not them that'll change, it's how you react that you'll have to change. Which is the moral of a lot of things in life, is you can't control how other people act, you can control how you act. The second to last thing I want to talk about is culture shock. It's something people kind of mention, but it not in a way for people to fully understand, which I feel like I've just said it in a way that no one will understand. It was something in my head I knew it was gonna happen, so I feel like when you travel and you know you're gonna move to a foreign country, in your head like I'm gonna get culture shock, but I don't think you realize the full extent of culture shock until it happens. So for me it happened when I ended up getting, I think it was the flu, we never actually got it checked out, and I freaked out. I was just miserable, I felt awful, and the worst part was I didn't know what medicine to get. My mom was recommending medicines to me and I couldn't find them here because they're called different things here. In the UK at least they call it by their like medical name, not like the brand name is how I grew up with them in the States. So I was just full-blown panicked Emma, which if you ever experience that, I'm sorry. I am slightly better now. Thankfully my boyfriend was able to help me out loads and bring me the right medicine. Big thing with culture shock is accents and slang. You can try to learn them to your best of your ability, but there will come a point where you can't learn it and you get really frustrated with yourself. You're like, so many people have explained this to me, why don't I understand it? And there just comes a point where you just need to accept that maybe you're not going to fully learn it, and maybe you don't adapt all of that slang into your everyday language, but just know like if someone says something you don't understand, don't play along with it, because I've done that before and it ended up being like really bad. It's just kind of inevitable that if you move to a foreign country you're gonna get culture shock, just because there will be things you just don't realize are different, and then it will really throw you off, and then you kind of spiral a little bit. And everyone's culture shock is different, everyone gets culture shock for different things. My biggest tip for culture shock, and tip is a very loose word I'll use for this, is to watch TV shows or movies from those countries, because at least then you can kind of learn the slang, you can learn the accent a bit, and kind of learn how people dress. That was a big thing. People dress so different in the UK than they did in the States. It took me a while to get over that one. And so it can help you a little bit, but just bear in mind, and this is a huge disclaimer when it comes to trying to follow things off of TV shows and movies, it is dramatized for entertainment, which means there aren't going to be accurate representations of those areas and those people. So if you're going to watch a movie based in London, people in London don't really act like that sometimes, or maybe they do. It depends on the movie you watch, obviously, but you just got to take that with a pinch of salt, because it's not going to be exactly like that. And the worst case scenario is you think it's going to be exactly like that, and then you get disappointed because it's not like that. I know a number of people that got disappointed moving to a different city or a different country, and it was nothing like their favorite movie or their favorite TV show or their favorite YouTuber or anything like that. Like it didn't match up with what their expectations were. Last thing I kind of want to touch upon is what to expect for yourself. Obviously in your 20s, if you don't realize, you're going to change a lot anyway, but being an international student, there are things that will change about you that maybe you don't expect will change. And this is the thing that I'm still kind of processing and trying to work through myself after being in the UK for 4 years, and that's your accent will change and you feel sometimes reverse culture shock. What reverse culture shock is when you go back home and you feel really out of place. It's something I still don't fully understand, and I think it's something I'm super open to having a discussion about, because it is something that I think people don't really mention, and I wish more people did. That when you do move abroad, when you move back home, or if you go back home for some time, there are going to be changes, there are going to be differences, and it's how you process those differences, and that can really cause anxiety and stress, because you don't feel like it's home anymore, even though it's home. So like in your foreign country where you studied or you live now, you go, oh my god, this is great, like I'm so excited to go home, and then you go home and it doesn't feel like home, and you kind of almost lose that sense of what feels like home. And to be honest, as I work through that, I'd love to update you guys on it, because it's going to be an interesting process for me to kind of fully understand. I'd love to open up a conversation about this, because obviously all of my experiences may not be the same as yours. Please feel free to have an open discussion in the comments, because no one's gonna have all the answers for being an international student. No one's gonna have all the answers for moving abroad as a whole, and that's kind of the whole point of it, I feel like, is you pick something that's so unknown and you want to challenge yourself, but you can challenge yourself to an extent, but I think you still need to be able to prepare yourself before you go into that challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, please pop them in the comments. I'm more than happy to have like full deep conversations about all of this. It's something I'm surprisingly really passionate about, and I didn't realize I would be passionate about being an international student, but I feel like I've learned through my years that it's something that people don't talk about, and I'd love for that conversation to start. And I'll see you guys next week, hopefully less deep and meta. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye!
Hi guys, congrats, you've made it to the new outro, aka me, Emma, being very uncomfortable trying to self-plug because apparently that helps with your algorithm. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like on this video if you liked this content, or if you want to see me try something new, let me know. And I'll see you guys hopefully next week. If not, please.
In case anyone was curious, so it's just a baby blue eye with natural makeup on the face and lip balm because I couldn't be bothered with lipstick.